Look at Caitlin Clark. Get this minutes restriction off me. Get the minutes restriction off me, guys. That's what Caitlin Clark is thinking. Now,
Imagine the electric atmosphere of a sold-out arena, the kind of noise that vibrates in your chest and makes it hard to hear your own thoughts as 18,000 fans rise to their feet in a unified roar of pure adrenaline. This is the house that Caitlin Clark built, a world where every single possession feels like a historic event. But tonight was different, because tonight she didn't just play well, she rewrote the history books yet again. As the ball swished through the net, marking another record-shattering milestone that many thought would take years to achieve, the camera did what it always does. It looked for the reaction from the bench. But instead of seeing a coach lost in the joy of the moment, or a leader celebrating the brilliance of a generational talent, the world saw something that felt like a bucket of ice water being poured over a burning flame. Stephanie White, the woman brought in to lead this franchise to the promised land, stood there with a face of stone, her eyes fixed on a clipboard as if the history unfolding 5 feet in front of her was nothing more than a clerical error. It wasn't just a missed high five or a coach being focused on the next play. It was a visible, undeniable snub that has sent shockwaves through the basketball world and left fans wondering if the most successful era in Indiana Fever history is already being sabotaged from within. The record Clark broke wasn't a minor stat or a niche milestone. It was a testament to her total dominance of the game, the kind of achievement that usually stops a game in its tracks for a standing ovation. But as the crowd chanted her name, White's body language spoke volumes, projecting a coldness that felt deliberate and calculated. This moment of friction didn't happen in a vacuum, and to understand why a legendary coach would seemingly ignore her star player's greatest professional achievement, you have to look at the power struggle brewing behind the scenes of the WNBA's most talked-about team. Stephanie White didn't come to Indiana just to be a spectator to the Caitlin Clark show. She came with a reputation as a hard-nosed, system-first disciplinarian who believes that no individual is ever bigger than the team. But when that individual is the sole reason the arena is full, and the reason the league is seeing record-breaking revenue, the team-first philosophy starts to look a lot like a personal vendetta. Rumors have been circulating for weeks that the relationship between the rookie sensation and the veteran coach is professional at best and toxic at worst, with insiders suggesting that White is frustrated by the circus that follows Clark everywhere she goes. The snub at the record-breaking game was just the tip of the iceberg, a public manifestation of a private battle for control over the team's identity and future direction. While the fans see a superstar breaking records, White reportedly sees a player who needs to be humbled and forced into a traditional offensive system that doesn't always play to her strengths. This clash of generations is playing out in real time, and the fallout could be disastrous for a franchise that has finally found its footing after years of struggling in the shadows. The post-game press conference only added fuel to the fire, as White spent nearly 10 minutes praising the team's defensive rotations and the grit of the veteran players without mentioning Clark's record-breaking performance a single time. When a reporter finally asked about the milestone, White's response was short, clipped, and lacked even a hint of genuine pride or even basic excitement. She deflected the question by saying that individual accolades are fine, but we're here to win championships, a statement that would be fine in any other context, but felt like a direct slap in the face to a player who had just carried the team to a massive victory. It's the kind of subtle psychological warfare that players notice, and it's the kind of thing that can quickly lose a locker room if the rest of the players feel like the coach is being unfair to their best teammate. The irony is that White was once a star in Indiana herself, a player who knows exactly what it's like to have the weight of a franchise on her shoulders, which makes her apparent coldness toward Clark even more baffling to the outside world. Is this a case of a former star feeling eclipsed by the new generation? Or is there something even more controversial happening behind closed doors? Some analysts believe that White is acting as a proxy for the league's old guard, a group of veterans and coaches who feel that the hype surrounding Clark is disrespectful to the legends who paved the way. By snubbing Clark, White might be trying to signal to the rest of the league that she isn't starstruck like the fans. But in doing so, she risks alienating the very player who is the key to her own success as a coach. The tension has become so thick you could cut it with a knife, and every time Clark looks toward the bench for a sign of approval and meets a blank stare, the Caitlin Clark effect takes on a darker, more complicated meaning. This isn't just about one game or one record. It's about the soul of the Indiana Fever, and whether they can survive the massive expectations that come with having a global icon on the roster. The fans are already starting to turn, with social media being flooded with demands for White to show more respect, or even calls for her to be exposed for her perceived bias. The drama is compounded by recent rumors that several veteran players on the team are also feeling the strain, caught between their loyalty to a coach who demands perfection and a teammate who is rewriting the rules of the sport every single night. There are whispers of a fractured locker room where the Clark camp and the White camp are beginning to form, creating a divide that could ruin the team's chemistry before the playoffs even begin. If White's goal was to keep Clark's ego in check, she may have accidentally created a monster of a different kind, a narrative of a villain coach trying to suppress a hero player. The financial stakes of this conflict are astronomical, as the Fever have become the most valuable property in the WNBA almost overnight. And any sign of internal collapse could cost the franchise millions in lost revenue and brand damage. Sponsors are watching, the league office is watching, and millions of fans who only started following the WNBA because of Clark are watching with a critical eye. If they perceive that the coach is being a DMN hater or trying to dim Clark's light out of spite, the backlash will be unlike anything the league has ever seen. The word exposed is being thrown around by fans who believe they've seen the SAT that goes on when the cameras aren't looking, pointing to missed interactions during timeouts and White's tendency to pull Clark from the game just as she's getting into a rhythm. It's a high-stakes game of chicken where nobody wins if the car crashes, yet neither side seems willing to blink or extend an olive branch. Some people defend White, arguing that she's simply being a tough-love coach who wants to ensure Clark develops into a complete player, not just a highlight reel. But that argument is becoming harder to sustain when the results on the court are so historically significant. You don't treat a player who is breaking all-time records like just another rookie unless there is a deeper issue at play, one that involves ego, jealousy, or a fundamental disagreement on how the game should be played. The pressure on Clark is already immense, with every missed shot or turnover being dissected by millions. And having a coach who doesn't seem to have her back only makes the burden heavier. What happens if this tension continues to build? Will Clark eventually tire of the lack of support and look for a way out of Indiana? Or will the front office be forced to make a choice between their legendary coach and their once-in-a-lifetime superstar? It's a situation that feels like a ticking time bomb, and the snub after the latest record was the loudest tick we've heard yet. As the season moves forward, every single gesture, every word in a press conference, and every look on the sidelines will be analyzed for signs of a thaw in the relationship. But for now, the air in Indiana remains freezing cold. The record books show that Caitlin Clark is the best to ever do it at this stage of her career, but the history books might eventually record this era as a missed opportunity if the people in charge couldn't get out of their own way. The tragedy of the situation is that this should be a time of celebration for everyone involved. A time to enjoy the rise of a new legend, and the revitalization of a storied franchise. Instead, it's become a source of controversy and speculation, with fans feeling like they're watching a slow-motion wreck where the driver and the navigator are fighting over the steering wheel. Stephanie White has a choice to make. She can either embrace the future and become the coach who guided the greatest player of all time to her full potential, or she can continue to be the coach who tried to stand in the way of a moving train. The world has already made its choice, and they are firmly in Clark's corner, which puts White in an incredibly dangerous position. If the team wins, people will say it was because of Clark. If they lose, they will blame White's antiquated methods and her failure to connect with her star. It's a DMN if you do. DMN if you don't scenario that White has largely created for herself through her own public dismissiveness. As more records fall and the spotlight grows even brighter, the snub will be remembered as the moment the world realized that not everyone in Indiana is happy about the revolution. It's a story of ego, power, and the terrifying reality of what happens when a sport grows faster than the people running it. The next few weeks will be telling as the Fever face tougher competition and the internal pressure continues to mount. Will we see a moment of genuine connection between coach and player? Or will the gap continue to widen until it's an unbridgeable chasm? One thing is for certain, Caitlin Clark isn't going to stop breaking records, and the fans aren't going to stop demanding that she be given the respect she has earned. The ball is in Stephanie White's court, and how she chooses to play it will define her legacy just as much as Clark's records will define hers. This is the revealed truth of the Indiana Fever's season. It's not just about basketball anymore. It's about a clash of titans where the stakes couldn't be higher. Every time Clark steps onto the court, she's playing against the opposition and, in some ways, against the expectations of her own coaching staff. That kind of environment is unsustainable in the long run, and something has to give before the whole season is offed by internal strife. The story of the snub is more than a viral clip. It's a warning sign for anyone who thinks that talent alone is enough to win in a world of complex professional dynamics. As we look ahead to the next game, the question isn't just whether Clark will break another record, but whether anyone on her own bench will care when she does. The silence from Stephanie White has been deafening, and until she finds her voice to champion the star that was handed to her, the shadow of this controversy will hang over every victory. This is a high-stakes drama with no easy answers, and as the curtain rises on the next chapter, the tension is only going to get more shocking. The world is watching, the clock is ticking, and the records keep falling, whether the coach likes it or not. The reality of the WNBA right now is that the old rules don't apply anymore, and anyone trying to enforce them is going to find themselves on the wrong side of history. Caitlin Clark is a force of nature, a cultural phenomenon that has transcended the sport of basketball, and trying to snub that kind of energy is like trying to hold back the tide with a plastic bucket. Stephanie White might be a basketball genius, but if she can't manage the human element of this journey, her tactical brilliance won't matter. The fans want to see greatness celebrated, not managed or mitigated, and every time White fails to do that, she loses a little more of the community's trust. The irony of the snub is that it actually makes Clark more of a hero in the eyes of the public, creating a Caitlin against the world narrative that only makes her fan base more loyal and more defensive. If White wanted to minimize the distractions, she has achieved the exact opposite, turning a routine post-game celebration into a week-long news cycle about her own behavior. This is the exposed reality of a high-pressure environment where every move is scrutinized and every silence is interpreted as a statement. We are witnessing the growing pains of a league that is finally getting the attention it deserves. But with that attention comes a level of accountability that some people clearly aren't prepared for. The drama in Indiana is a microcosm of a much larger shift in sports culture, where the players are gaining more power and the coaches are being forced to adapt or become irrelevant. For Stephanie White, the clock is ticking on her chance to get this right. And if she doesn't change her approach soon, she might find herself as a footnote in the story of a player who changed the world. The records are permanent, but the relationships are fragile. And right now, the foundation of the Indiana Fever looks like it's built on sand. As the lights go down on another night of historic basketball, the image that lingers isn't the trophy or the record-breaking shot, but the image of a coach and a player who couldn't be further apart. It's a haunting reminder that even at the highest levels of success, the human ego can be the greatest obstacle to true greatness. The snub wasn't just a moment. It was a symptom of a much deeper problem that could define the next decade of WNBA history. Will they find a way to work together? Or is this the beginning of a spectacular collapse that will leave the basketball world wondering what could have been? The answer lies in the next few games, the next few practices, and the next time Caitlin Clark does something that no one else in history has ever done. If Stephanie White still can't find a reason to celebrate, then we'll know that the problem isn't the records. It's the person watching them being broken. The story of the Indiana Fever is far from over, but the plot has taken a dark and unexpected turn that has everyone on the edge of their seats, waiting to see what happens next in this unfolding saga of talent, power, and the price of superstardom. The world of sports is rarely this transparent, but the tension between White and Clark has become impossible to hide, leaving us all to wonder if we are witnessing the start of a legendary partnership or the most high-profile breakup in the history of the league. Whatever the outcome, the records will continue to fall, and the fans will continue to scream her name, because at the end of the day, you can snub a player, but you can't snub history. The narrative has shifted from "can they win together" to "can they even exist together?" And that is a terrifying place for a championship-contending team to be. Every record Clark breaks from here on out will be a test of White's resolve and her ability to lead with humility instead of ego. If she fails that test, the Caitlin Clark era in Indiana might end before it ever truly begins, leaving a trail of broken records and what-ifs in its wake. The stakes are set, the players are in position, and the eyes of the entire world are fixed on that Indiana sideline, waiting for a sign that the greatest show on earth finally has its coach on board. But until that happens, the snub remains the most talked-about play in the game, a silent statement that says more than 1,000 words ever could about the state of the Indiana Fever. As we move into the heart of the season, the pressure will only intensify, and the cracks in the armor will become even more visible. Is this the tough love that builds champions, or the cold shoulder that destroys them? Only time will tell, but the clock is ticking, and history waits for no one, not even a coach who thinks she knows better than the world. The drama is real, the tension is palpable, and the fallout from this moment will be felt for years to come in a league that is still trying to find its way in the bright lights of the global stage. Caitlin Clark has done her part. She has shown up. She has played her heart out. And she has broken the records she was told were unbreakable. Now, it's up to Stephanie White to decide if she wants to be part of that history or just a witness who refused to see what was right in front of her. The ball is in her court, and the world is waiting for her to finally make the right play.